come from just consuming more information, but from actually connecting those dots, seeing the bigger picture.
Exactly.
Today, we're really trying to cut through that noise, make sense of a world that often feels like it's spinning faster than we can even track.
Precisely. And our goal here is to extract that signal from the overwhelming noise. This deep dive, it's all about three, I think, profoundly interconnected forces that are actively shaping our world right now.
Okay.
First, the turbulent, often unpredictable shifts in global economics. Second, the critical and frankly quite fragile challenges facing our public health infrastructure. And then there's the explosive growth and constantly evolving landscape of the digital frontier, which, encompasses both the wild west of cryptocurrency and the rapidly advancing world of artificial intelligence.
Okay, so three huge areas. And our mission is clear. We're here to extract the most important insights from a really diverse stack of sources. We're talking everything from the World Bank and Brookings Institution to Bloomberg NEF, leading crypto outlets, financial news, the works.
Right, a real mix.
We'll help you understand the core issues, why they genuinely matter to your daily life, and maybe uncover some surprising, even counterintuitive facts that emerge when you look closely.
Yeah.
Think of this as your shortcut to being truly well-informed, maybe giving you those aha moments without the usual information overload.
So get ready to see some familiar topics in perhaps a completely new light. We promise surprising revelations and hopefully a clear, engaging journey through what can often feel like incredibly complex topics.
That's good.
This is your chance to make sense of the new realities we're all navigating together.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Let's jump straight into the shifting sands of global economics. First up, we're grappling with global trade and the long lingering shadow of tariffs. We've seen some pretty significant developments recently in global trade policy, especially concerning those tariffs imposed by the former administration. Our sources, including the Council on Foreign Relations and CNBC, they've really highlighted both the legal challenges and the economic consequences of that approach.
Right, and the origin of these trade tensions is quite revealing, actually. The Trump administration's Section 232 tariffs. They were initially imposed under the pretext of national security.
Right, Section 232, that sounds familiar.
It is, and for those not sort of steeped in the intricacies of trade law, Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act of 1962, it's a remarkably powerful piece of legislation.
Oh, so?
Well, it allows a president to impose tariffs on imports if the Commerce Secretary determines those imports threaten national security. So this legal justification provided a really broad application, citing concerns that foreign imports of certain goods, particularly steel and aluminum, could undermine domestic production essential for defense.
Okay, so steel and aluminum linked to defense.
Well, that was the argument. What makes it so contentious is that traditionally, national security tariffs were reserved for more explicit defense-related industries, not broad sectors like steel that also serve commercial markets. This expanded interpretation was a significant departure.
And those tariffs really stirred the pot globally, didn't they? Caused a lot of friction.
Absolutely.
But then came a really crucial development, a significant federal court ruling that deemed most of those Section 232 tariffs illegal.
That's right, a major ruling.
This isn't just a minor legal skirmish, is it? It feels like a huge deal because it could have massive cascading effects on how future administrations approach trade policies, might limit the use of those broad national security claims.
Potentially, yes.
So what was the immediate fallout from this ruling? And maybe more importantly, what precedent does this set? Does it actually bring clarity?
That's the critical question, and it reveals a surprising insight, actually. You'd logically think a ruling against tariffs might bring certainty, right? Clarity.
Yeah, you'd hope so.
But CNBC actually points out this paradox, where even a ruling meant to clarify can increase uncertainty for businesses.
How does that work?
Well, imagine you're a company. You've already spent millions adjusting your supply chains, maybe relocating manufacturing, changing investment strategies based on these tariffs being in place.
Okay.
Now, with them potentially gone, or maybe facing continued legal limbo while appeals happen, you're left scrambling again.
Ah, I see.
This constant legal back and forth doesn't provide the predictability businesses crave for long-term planning and investment.
Right.
So the single biggest takeaway here might be that legal rulings intended to clarify trade policy can, in fact, sometimes increase market uncertainty. It forces businesses into this perpetual state of adaptation rather than stability.
It's like trying to build a house on quicksand, just constant shifting.
Exactly.
And FX Street offered an interesting, almost pessimistic counterpoint. They suggested that regardless of these specific legal challenges, the underlying trade war is likely to escalate anyway.
Why is that?
Well, they cited several reasons for this persistent tension. Buoyant global markets, a resilient U.S. economy, rising customs revenues from the tariffs that were in place, a perception maybe of appeasement by trading partners, and what they termed conducive politics that favor these kinds of measures.
So suggesting it's deeper than just the legal justification.
Seems so. Why do you think this perspective suggests an ongoing, almost inevitable escalation, even when facing legal setbacks?
It implies that the tariffs were never just about national security or even purely economic competition. There's a strong political and geopolitical undercurrent.
Politics playing a big role.
Definitely. And to illustrate this contentious interplay between politics and economics, consider this vivid example from CNBC back in September 2025. Then President Trump characterized the India-U.S. trade relationship as, and I quote, a totally one-sided disaster.
Wow, strong words.
Very. And this wasn't said in a vacuum. It came right after the Indian Prime Minister's high-profile visit to China.
Ah, the timing.
Exactly. It perfectly highlights how quickly trade rhetoric can become intertwined with broader geopolitical maneuvers and nationalistic sentiment. Economic policy becomes a tool in a larger power game.
So, okay, boiling this down, what does this all mean for you, the listener?
Well, these intricate trade disputes, these tariff policies, they ultimately filter down. They affect the prices of the goods you buy.
Like what?
Everything from the cost of a new car to consumer electronics in your home. They directly influence the competitiveness of businesses, both here and internationally. And they impact the stability of global supply chains that touch your everyday life, often in ways you don't immediately see.
So it's not just some abstract economic concept debated in Washington or Geneva.
Not at all. It's right there in your wallet and on your shopping list.
Okay, let's zoom out a bit then. Talk about measuring the world economy and poverty. This is where the World Bank comes in, with its extensive and maybe often unsung work, particularly through something called the International Comparison Program, or ICP, and the use of purchasing power parities, PPPs. Sounds technical, but it's vital for understanding global economic realities beyond just simple currency conversions.
Absolutely vital. The International Comparison Program, the ICP, it's this massive global statistical initiative. Its whole purpose is to collect detailed price data and compile expenditure weights across countries.
Okay.
To produce these purchasing power parities, the PPPs.
And what are PPPs in simple terms?
They're essentially currency conversion rates, but they adjust for differences in the cost of living between countries. Unlike market exchange rates, which just reflect the value of currencies in international trade, PPPs give you a much more accurate measure of the real economic size of economies and the actual living standards of people.
So it's not just about how many dollars a rupee is worth in a bank.
Right.
It's about how much stuff, like a basket of goods, bread, coffee, a haircut you can actually buy with that rupee compared to the dollar in different places.
Precisely. And this is absolutely foundational for understanding global poverty. The World Bank relies heavily on ICP and PPP data to adjust and constantly update global and regional poverty lines.
I see.
Their blogs from May 2022 explicitly discuss how the 2017 PPPs significantly changed our understanding of global and regional poverty. It highlights this ongoing effort to refine these crucial metrics.
So poverty isn't just a fixed dollar amount.
Exactly. It's measured by what that dollar can actually buy in different parts of the world.
Okay.
It offers a more humane, more accurate perspective.
That makes sense.
And this granular data, it's also critical for monitoring progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, especially those related to poverty and economic development. A World Bank blog from March 2022 explicitly states how ICP data helps track these global targets. It gives a much more nuanced picture of where progress is truly being made and where challenges persist.
Okay.
Furthermore, and this is where maybe the aha moment really comes in, when you look at economic size in PPP terms, it reveals significant shifts in global economic power that nominal GDP figures, the ones you usually hear about, often completely mask.
Right, because they don't account for that cost of living difference.
Exactly.
And it's not just for long-term planning or academic studies, is it? The World Bank used this data in real time, didn't they? Like to estimate the impact of COVID-19 on global poverty.
That's right. Back in a June 2020 blog, it shows how adaptable and absolutely essential this kind of robust data collection is, even during fast-moving crises. They also use it for their annual country classifications. The World Bank's 2024, 2025, and FY26 income classifications mentioned in July 2024 and 2025 blogs, they reflect the evolving economic landscapes. How countries are moving up or maybe down the income ladder based on these more comprehensive metrics.
So give us an example of those shifts in economic power revealed by PPPs.
Okay, a truly striking one, highlighted in a World Bank blog from October 2019, is how tracking GDP in PPP terms demonstrated the rapid rise of China and India as economic powers.
Which we know happened, but maybe PPP showed it differently.
It showed the scale and maybe the timing differently. These countries, often underestimated by nominal GDP, showed their true economic weight in terms of what their citizens could actually purchase much earlier than many realized.
Interesting.
Another illustrative fact from a September 2018 World Bank blog, India, in PPP terms, actually surpassed France in economic size a quarter-century ago.
A quarter century? Wow.
Yeah. This isn't some recent development. It illustrates the long-term fundamental shifts in global economic influence that this data reveals, fundamentally reshaping global power dynamics far earlier than the traditional measures might suggest.
So for you, the listener, this offers a crucial lens, understanding true global wealth distribution and progress. It fundamentally changes your perspective on international development, on how economies are interconnected,
Right.
showing that relying solely on nominal GDP completely misses the true economic rise of countries like India and China, which have been global economic heavyweights in purchasing power terms for decades.
It's a much more accurate, more comprehensive view of the world's economic landscape.
Yep.
It helps you see the real drivers of global change.
Okay, let's shift our focus now. From these global economic measures to the maybe unseen architects of our financial stability, central banks and market sensitivity.
The Fed.
Yeah, particularly the pivotal role of the U.S. Federal Reserve. These institutions are the undisputed heavyweights, directly influencing monetary policy, maintaining financial stability. And their every move is scrutinized by global markets with, well, almost religious intensity.
That's fair to say. The Federal Reserve operates under what's often called its dual mandate. Its core objectives are 1, achieve maximum employment, and 2, maintain inflation at a stable 2% rate over the longer run.
Maximum employment and stable prices.
Exactly. This dual focus is clearly outlined in their FOMC statement from July 2025. Every decision they make is this delicate balancing act geared towards achieving both of these critical and sometimes conflicting goals for the U.S. economy.
And we've seen the Federal Open Market Committee, the FOMC, in action recently. In July 2025, they decided to maintain the target range for the federal funds rate at 4.14 to 4.12%.
Right, holding steady there.
But they also continued with their plan to reduce holdings of Treasury securities, that process known as quantitative tightening, or QT.
Correct. Still shrinking the balance sheet.
This isn't just a technical adjustment, is it? Can you unpack what quantitative tightening actually means and why it's such a significant policy tool?
You're right. It's far more than technical. Quantitative tightening, QT, it's essentially the opposite of quantitative easing, or QE, which people might remember from previous years.
Okay.
It means the Fed is actively shrinking its balance sheet. It does this by allowing its vast holdings of Treasury securities and mortgage-backed securities to mature without reinvesting the proceeds.
So letting them expire, basically.
Exactly. In effect, the Fed is pulling money out of the financial system.
And the significance.
It's immense. It's a deliberate action designed to cool down the economy and rein in inflation by making money scarcer and therefore more expensive to borrow. It directly influences long-term interest rates and overall financial conditions.
Perfecting.
Everything from borrowing costs for businesses to mortgage rates for homeowners. It's a major lever.
What's also fascinating, and quite a political subplot, is the ongoing debate around attacks on the Fed's independence. Sources like FX Street and Investing.com regularly highlight these discussions.
Yeah, that's always simmering.
The idea of an independent central bank, insulated from short-term political pressures, is seen by many economists as absolutely crucial for long-term economic stability. Why is this independence so vital, and what happens when it's publicly questioned or undermined?
Well, its independence is paramount because monetary policy decisions often require unpopular choices in the short term.
Like raising interest rates.
Exactly. Raising rates to combat inflation can slow economic growth, which isn't usually popular politically. If the Fed were subject to political whims, there would be constant pressure to keep rates low, potentially leading to runaway inflation just to boost short-term economic numbers before an election, for example.
So stability over short-term gain.
That's the idea. When that independence is questioned, It shakes market confidence. Investors start to worry that policy decisions might be influenced by factors other than sound economic principles, adding another layer of uncertainty to market dynamics.
And you can really see how incredibly sensitive markets are to the Fed's communications. We've heard phrases like rate cut bets intensify often, right? Especially after Fed statements or speeches leading to significant market volatility.
Oh, definitely. Markets hang on every word.
A key detail here, highlighted by FX Street, was Chair Powell's apparent dovish stance at the Jackson Hole Symposium around August-September 2025.
Right. That caused a stir.
Even a subtle shift in tone from the Fed chair can send ripples through global financial markets. What signals do markets typically look for, and how quickly do they react?
Markets dissect every word, every nuance, looking for clues about future policy. They look for subtle changes in language, shifts in economic forecasts, any deviation from previously stated positions.
So what did dovish stance mean in that context?
Dovish generally means a slightly more accommodating or less aggressive approach to monetary policy. So when Chair Powell adopted that stance, it immediately led to intensified rate cut bets.
Meaning?
Investors interpreted this as a sign the Fed might be nearing the end of its tightening cycle, or maybe even considering rate reductions sooner than expected.
Yeah.
And that can impact bond yields, stock prices, currency values, almost instantaneously.
Wow.
Specific speeches by Chair Powell or Governor Waller on the economic outlook, as reported by Federal Reserve News and Events back in August 2025. They aren't just informative updates. They're often carefully weighted statements designed to signal future policy directions and, yes, move markets. Analysts hang on to every syllable.
So let's bring it home. What's the direct relevance to you? How does the Fed's balancing act affect the average person?
These decisions, made in boardrooms far away, they directly influence your personal finances. We're talking about everything from the interest rates on your mortgage,
Big one.
the interest you earn on your savings accounts, the returns on your investments, and just the overall health and direction of the broader economy that impacts jobs and opportunities.
So understanding the Fed's actions gives you a clearer, maybe more proactive picture of the financial currents affecting your daily life.
Exactly. It helps you navigate.
Okay, let's pivot now to a really critical and frankly quite alarming area. Public health under pressure. A fragile foundation.
A very concerning topic.
We're starting with the current public health landscape in the U.S., which is showing a deeply concerning resurgence of preventable diseases, the looming threat of emerging infections, and this troubling backdrop of weakening support for vital vaccination programs.
Yeah, the situation with measles is truly alarming. Measles was officially eliminated from the United States back in the year 2000.
Eliminated. Gone.
Gone. A monumental triumph of vaccination, really showcasing the power of public health. Now, over 2 decades later, we face a significant comeback. A Council on Foreign Relations, or CFR, webinar back in February 2025 underscored this concerning trend. A once-conquered disease is reemerging as a serious threat.
And these issues are directly tied to vaccination coverage gaps, aren't they? I remember hearing about herd immunity thresholds.
Exactly. To achieve population immunity, often called herd immunity, you typically need about 93 to 95% MMR vaccine coverage.
Okay, 93 to 95%.
The grim reality, as reported in that CFR webinar, is that 31 out of 49 reporting states are below this lower band for kindergartners.
Wow, 31 states below the minimum threshold. What are the broader implications of that? It's not just a statistic, is it?
It's absolutely not just a statistic. Falling below that threshold means there are enough susceptible individuals in a community for an infectious disease like measles to spread rapidly. It loses its containment.
And we saw that happen.
We did. The Texas outbreak exemplifies this vulnerability in tragic detail. The CFR webinar reported the first measles death in the U.S. in 10 years. An unvaccinated child in West Texas.
Oh, that's awful.
It is. And the statistics from that period were stark. 124 cases in Texas, mostly West Texas, 9 in neighboring New Mexico, with a staggering 80% involving children.
80% children.
Yeah. And cases were also identified in 7 other states: Alaska, California, Georgia, New Jersey, New York, Rhode Island. The total of over 130 cases in just the first 2 months of 2025 already surpassed the annual totals for 8 of the last 15 years.
Just staggering speed.
It is. Experts even feared this outbreak could be worse than the 2019 New York outbreak, which saw over 1,000 cases. It just underscores the rapid, severe nature of its spread and the sheer speed at which decades of progress can unravel.
And it's not just measles making an unwelcome return, is it? We're also seeing the potential emergence of dangerous avian influenza, bird flu.
Right, H5N1. That adds another layer of concern. The Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report, the MMWR, had initial reports on H5N1 that were controversially paused, apparently, but then later published, as mentioned in the CFR webinar.
What does that situation tell us about our current preparedness and maybe the challenges in communicating vital health information during potential crises? That pause sounds worrying.
It is a worrying sign.
Yeah.
And compounding these outbreaks is a troubling trend of diminished federal support for vaccination. The CFR webinar pointed to a cumulative effect of federal actions undermining vaccination support.
Like what specifically?
Well, this included the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, being relatively quiet on these critical issues, sort of stepping back from its traditional vocal advocacy role.
Okay.
Important vaccine advisory committees, like the National Vaccine Advisory Committee and the Advisory Commission on Childhood Vaccination, were postponed. And perhaps most concerningly, questions were raised about the credibility of the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practice, or ACIP.
That's the one that recommends vaccine schedules, right?
Exactly. Questions were raised due to potential conflicts of interest, which could further erode public trust.
What kind of conflicts?
The concerns often related to members having financial ties to pharmaceutical companies that produce vaccines, leading to worries that their recommendations might not be entirely unbiased, thereby shaking public faith in vital vaccine guidance at a critical time.
That's deeply problematic. And to make matters worse, an executive order was highlighted that restricted federal funding to states or schools requiring COVID-19 vaccination.
Right.
This doesn't just impact COVID-19 specifically, does it? It seems like it further weakens a broader public health framework. Sends a message.
It does. It sends a clear message that vaccine mandates, even in a public health crisis, are not supported at the federal level. What kind of impact does a policy like this have on the overall public health landscape and the ability of states to respond effectively to future outbreaks? It essentially ties the hands of states and schools that might want to implement stronger, evidence-based public health measures.
Making a unified response much harder.
Much harder. This whole section just underscores the alarming fragility of public health achievements. What was once considered a solved problem, like measles elimination, is now a current and active threat. These trends pose immediate risks to your family and your community, stressing the critical importance of understanding the science behind vaccination and the underlying public health infrastructure that protects us all.
Okay, moving beyond the specific disease outbreaks, we need to talk about the erosion of public health infrastructure. This sounds systemic, a weakening of the U.S. public health workforce and its crucial international collaboration networks. You mentioned this has far-reaching, potentially catastrophic consequences. What's happening behind the scenes in our federal agencies?
Yeah, the federal workforce reductions reported were truly alarming. At the National Institutes of Health, the NIH, the nation's premier biomedical research agency, an estimated 1,200 employees were dismissed.
1,200?
1,200. Many described as promising young investigators possessing specialized knowledge that can't easily be replaced.
Wow.
Simultaneously, the CDC saw a reduction of approximately 1,100 individuals, 750 fired, 400 taking voluntary retirement. And significant decreases occurred in critical programs like the Laboratory Leadership Service Program and the Public Health Associate Program. These are vital links between the CDC and state and local entities, providing crucial on-the-ground resources during emerging outbreaks.
So it's not just numbers, it's expertise and connections being lost.
Exactly. It's the loss of institutional memory and specialized expertise built over years.
And these cuts have a chilling effect on the entire scientific pipeline, right? Particularly concerning NIH funding in academia. You mentioned some institutions are reducing graduate student intake.
That's what the source indicated, yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredibly worrying for the future. As one expert in the CFR webinar put it, this threatens to eviscerate our next generation of public health experts and scientists.
How does this impact our future capacity for scientific innovation and disease response? It sounds like we're cutting off the supply line.
It creates a dangerous vacuum for the future. And there's also a specific concern highlighted about infectious disease research itself. Proposed legislation and apparent support within NIH aim to split NIAI, that's the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, formerly led by Dr. Fauci,
Right.
into 3 subgroups. This could potentially defund what is already described as not a lucrative area of medicine, creating a real disincentive for individuals to pursue careers in this critical field.
So potentially driving talent away from fighting infectious diseases.
That's the fear. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this risks losing decades of progress on communicable diseases. It could effectively shift focus away from these immediate, acute threats, which might have devastating consequences if they rebound, while we maybe overfocus on non-communicable diseases like heart disease and cancer. It's a matter of balancing priorities, and the concern is the balance is tipping dangerously.
And beyond the domestic cuts, we're also seeing a significant international retreat from U.S. global health leadership.
Yes, that was another major theme.
The president's withdrawal from the World Health Organization, the WHO, a renewal of a 2020 notice, suggesting immediate effect. This apparently led U.S. officials to stop participating in many networks crucial for surveillance of emerging infections and influenza.
Essentially making us blind to threats brewing abroad.
That sounds incredibly risky, and the cuts to USAI, the Agency for International Development, were equally drastic.
They were described as drastic, yes. Nearly all 5,800 out of 6,200 contracts with USA were reportedly terminated, with an expected workforce reduction from 10,000 down to just 1,000.
10,000 to 1,000.
That's the figure cited. And USA, as the source emphasized, provides our eyes and ears for emerging infections abroad. They do crucial work on diseases like HIV and malaria. This withdrawal creates enormous blind spots globally, allowing health threats to potentially incubate beyond our knowledge and fostering this illusion of safety here at home.
We're effectively turning off our global early warning system.
That's a good way to put it.
To put this into chilling perspective, think about the Ebola outbreak in West Africa, 2013-2015. Claimed 20,000 lives, cost billions.
A terrible crisis.
But subsequent outbreaks were much better contained, weren't they? Precisely because of the system buildup, often supported by U.S. international aid.
That's correct. The infrastructure made a difference.
In fact, the source highlighted that U.S.-side funding was directly responsible for identifying the first COVID case outside China and developing the vaccine for Mpox.
Crucial interventions.
So these cutbacks directly increase your risk, the listener's risk, from global pandemics and emerging diseases, as those early warning systems and containment capabilities are now severely compromised.
It's a huge gamble with our collective health security, and one that could have profound economic and social costs down the line.
So with all these federal shifts and withdrawals creating such a challenging environment, what's happening on the ground? How are local adaptation and the broader scope of public health departments coping? How are they continuing to perform the crucial, often unseen daily functions that keep us safe?
It's a mixed picture, showing both resilience and strain. Manisha Juthani, the commissioner of the Connecticut Department of Public Health, described this period as one of uncertainty and unrest for state staff.
Understandable.
She noted that initially, cease orders were placed on most of their 154 federal grants, which make up a staggering half of the department's funding.
Half their funding frozen.
Temporarily, yes. While temporary restraining orders eventually prevented specific terminations, the uncertainty persists, creating a precarious situation for vital state-level services. However, she did mention the resumption of MWR publications as a hopeful sign, indicating some critical communication channels were being restored, albeit after some initial disruption.
And despite these national trends and federal uncertainties, Connecticut, you mentioned, managed to maintain strong local vaccine uptake.
Yes, impressively so. In 2024, their MMR coverage for kindergartners was 97.7%.
Above the herd immunity threshold.
Well above. And actually an increase from pre-pandemic levels. What does Connecticut's success demonstrate? It clearly shows that sustained local effort and community engagement can make a tangible difference. It highlights the resilience and dedication of state and local public health officials and the communities they serve, even when the federal winds are blowing against you.
But even with local successes, national decisions can have wider impacts. What about the cancellation of the VRBP key meeting? That's the federal committee determining flu vaccine strains.
Right. That was flagged as a serious concern because it directly impacts vaccine manufacturing timelines. Flu vaccine strains need to be identified usually in the spring to be manufactured and distributed in time for the fall flu season.
So canceling that meeting delays everything.
Exactly. It could have wide-ranging health consequences if the vaccine match isn't optimal or production is delayed, and also business consequences. Think workforce absenteeism across the nation if we face an unexpectedly severe flu season without a well-matched vaccine readily available.
We often take for granted the foundational work of public health, don't we? I liked that quote from the CFR webinar. Public health saved your life today, you just didn't know it.
It's powerful because it's true.
It's these less visible but absolutely critical functions that protect us daily. Think about safe drinking water regulations, preventing contamination by toxins, chemicals, infectious agents, something we rarely think about until there's a crisis like Flint, Michigan.
Exactly. Or food safety. Constant oversight, including inspections, testing. The source mentioned secret shoppers in state health departments who test food. This prevents outbreaks like the then current listeria crisis mentioned. These are basic, unseen protections maintaining our daily health and safety, quietly working in the background.
So for listeners wondering where to get reliable, actionable information amid all these shifts and maybe conflicting messages,
The advice from the webinar was clear. Rely on your local and state public health departments for current, ground-level information. They know what's happening in your community. Supplement this with official CDC and WHO websites, which, despite some earlier data access issues, seem to have largely restored their public resources.
go local first.
That seems to be the message. This direct engagement ensures you're getting the most relevant and up-to-date guidance for your community.
And we must revisit the concerns about those cuts impacting the next generation. The probationary federal employees, the impact on the scientific workforce writ large due to academic funding reductions. What does this mean long term?
It's a huge concern because it cripples our future capacity. We're potentially creating a gap in expertise that will take years, maybe decades, to rebuild. It's a multi-generational impact.
And how are other countries reacting to the U.S. withdrawal from global health leadership? Are they stepping up?
It seems to be a fragmented response, according to the source. Some governments politically aligned with the U.S. administration at the time, like Argentina, apparently emulated the U.S. by also withdrawing from the WHO. Hungary and Russia were reportedly considering similar actions.
Okay.
Other countries, like the UK, were reportedly redirecting foreign aid towards military spending, shifting priorities away from health.
And China?
China is stepping in to fill some voids in strategic countries, primarily with infrastructure projects, but reportedly less focused on global health security or things like mother-child health programs. This leaves significant gaps, particularly in less strategic or less economically viable regions. It suggests a fragmentation of global health efforts and a concerning shift in priorities, leaving many vulnerable populations without critical support.
So for communities worried about outbreaks like measles, given all this, what proactive local measures can you take?
The recommendation from the webinar was clear. Proactively identify under-vaccinated populations within the community. Engage those communities respectfully to understand and address vaccine hesitancy, and run targeted, local vaccination campaigns.
Grassroots efforts.
Essentially, yes. This section really highlights that the direct services protecting your health and safety every day depend heavily on these local and state efforts now. And your local engagement and advocacy for public health can make a tangible difference, especially in this challenging environment where federal support seems to be waning.
All right, let's dive into our final section, a truly dynamic space. The digital frontier. Crypto, AI, and new market dynamics.
Always moving fast.
Incredibly fast-moving, full of innovation, volatility, constantly evolving challenges. We'll start with the volatile world of cryptocurrency and tokenized assets.
And what's truly fascinating here, maybe not surprisingly, is how cryptocurrency is increasingly intertwining with the messy world of politics.
How so?
We'll take the Trump-linked WLFI token saga, for instance.
Yeah.
This World Liberty Financial Token.
Mm-hmm.
It had a highly volatile launch. There was a proposed buyback and burn plan to reduce supply and boost value using protocol fees, common tactics in crypto.
Okay.
But reports from CoinDesk and Cointelegraph in August and September 2025 noted the really controversial aspect. The Trump family stake reportedly surging to $5 billion after a token unlock event.
$5 billion from a token.
That was the reported figure. And adding to the Wild West feel, CoinDesk also reported on scammers exploiting WLFI holders through phishing attacks. It just underscores the high-risk, largely unregulated environment where these political entanglements are playing out.
And it gets even more politically charged. We saw California Governor Gavin Newsom playfully tease launching his own Trump corruption coin.
Right, just to troll the former president.
As reported by Decrypt and Cointelegraph in September 2025, what a world we live in where digital tokens are becoming platforms for political expression and, well, digital mudslinging.
It really highlights how the crypto space is becoming this unexpected arena for highly visible political jabs and entanglements.
Beyond the political tokens, Bitcoin itself. Significant market dynamics recently. Price fluctuations ranging between, what, $107,000 and $111,000?
Around there, yes.
Yeah.
And FX Street in September 2025 pointed to declining trading volume and a somewhat bearish short-term sentiment suggesting potential downward pressure.
Not.
But on the flip side, CoinDesk in August 2025 noted Bitcoin's realized capitalization climbed to a record high.
Realized capitalization. What's
So
that?
it basically values each Bitcoin based on the price when it last moved on the blockchain. A high realized cap suggests long-term holders are accumulating and not selling, even if the current market price is fluctuating. It indicates underlying strength.
Interesting.
And JP Morgan reported its network hash rate, a measure of computing power securing the network, returned to all-time highs in August, suggesting robust mining activity and network security.
So a mixed picture. Short-term bearishness, maybe, but underlying strength.
That seems to be the combination. Bitcoin maintaining its role as a potential hedging asset for certain investors despite short-term sentiment swings.
And the Ethereum ecosystem is also buzzing with developments, isn't it?
Huge activity there. We've seen significant investments, like Jeffrey Burns' massive $654 million ETH commitment, and Bitmine Immersion's reported $8.1 billion Ether holdings, with an ambitious goal to control 5% of the total supply.
5% of all Ether.
That was their stated goal, according to CoinDesk and Cointelegraph in September 2025, shows real institutional confidence and strategic moves to corner parts of this supply.
And technically.
On the technical side, Ethereum's largest testnet, Holesky, was shut down after 2 years of operation, a crucial step as the network continually evolves and refines its infrastructure before implementing changes on the main network.
This also raises an important question. What about tokenized stocks? We heard Kraken and Xstocks launched tokenized equities on Ethereum. So
Right.
traditional company shares represented as digital tokens.
Right, a bridge between TradFi and DeFi.
But crucially, the European Securities and Markets Authority, ESMA, issued a warning in September 2025, highlighted by Decrypt and Cointelegraph. They warned that tokenized stocks could lead to investor misunderstanding. Why exactly is ESMA so concerned about this potential misunderstanding?
That's a vital question. ESMA's concern, essentially, is that investors might not fully grasp the legal and financial differences between owning a traditional stock certificate versus owning a digital token that represents that stock.
What are the differences?
Well, for example, traditional stocks often come with clear voting rights or dividend payments directly from the company. With a tokenized stock, these aspects might be handled differently, maybe through the platform or potentially not at all, depending on how it's structured. There are also questions around regulatory oversight, how you're protected if the platform fails, or in a market downturn.
So the rules aren't clear yet.
It's a complex blend of traditional finance and new technology, where the rules of the game are still being written. Consumer protection is a major priority for regulators trying to catch up.
But it's not all warnings and volatility, is it? We are seeing real-world adoption, too.
Definitely. The UAE's Arcade Properties, for instance, announced it would accept Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies for real estate deals, as reported by Cointelegraph in September 2025.
Buying property with Bitcoin.
Yeah. It signals an evolving global perspective on digital assets, moving them slowly from niche investments into increasingly mainstream transactions. Suggests a broader, if still cautious, acceptance.
So for you, the learner, this offers a crucial glimpse into how digital assets are rapidly evolving, from niche investments to potentially impactful financial instruments. It directly affects your potential investment choices and the regulatory environment that's trying to protect consumers.
It's a dynamic space that demands careful attention and a keen understanding of both its opportunities and its risks.
This brings us nicely to the power of on-chain data and behavioral analytics. Because in a market as volatile and fast-paced as crypto, simply looking at price charts only tells a fraction of the story, right?
Absolutely. It's like looking at the surface of the ocean.
Yeah. These sophisticated data platforms are now providing unprecedented transparency and insights into what's truly happening beneath the surface, offering a kind of X-ray vision into the market.
Yeah, and what's truly intriguing here is how on-chain analysis goes so much deeper than just tracking price movements or traditional market data. FX Street, back in September 2025, described it as offering financial truth, transparency, and opportunity
How?
by examining the underlying activity directly on the blockchain itself. This means you're looking at actual immutable transactions, wallet movements, network behavior, smart contract interactions, rather than just speculative trading or aggregated data from exchanges, which can sometimes be misleading.
It's the raw data of the digital economy.
Pretty much.
And there are some truly powerful platforms leading this charge. Let's talk about them. Santiment, for example.
Right, Santiment. They've been a pioneer since 2016 in behavioral analysis. They specialize in crypto development data, like how active developers are on a project since 2017, and sentiment metrics since 2014.
What kind of data do they offer?
Their offerings are incredibly extensive. Over 1,000 on-chain metrics across 12 different blockchains, covering 2,500 plus assets. They parse over 3 million social media messages monthly for sentiment analysis, and they've labeled more than 65 million Bitcoin and 75 million Ethereum addresses to track different types of holders.
So they can crack the big players.
Exactly. This allows them to track sophisticated stakeholder metrics, like whether whales, those incredibly large holders, are accumulating or dumping their assets. They can even monitor the popularity and trading dynamics of NFT collections. It's truly like having X-ray vision into the underlying mechanics.
Okay, who else?
Glassnode.
Glassnode. They're lauded for delivering unparalleled insights through their advanced blockchain data infrastructure. They use proprietary entity adjustment and clustering algorithms to identify and categorize market participants, distinguishing exchanges from miners from long-term holders, for instance.
So identifying who is doing what, precisely. And they integrate on-chain data with off-chain information, making it accessible via robust APIs. Glassnode emphasizes offering expert guidance and bespoke research. And they collaborate with major players like Coinbase, Avenir, Gemini, CME Group, indicating a high level of institutional trust. They really help you understand novel asset fundamentals and gauge true market sentiment by meticulously following capital flows and network activity.
And finally, CryptoQuant.
CryptoQuant is introduced as a leading and trusted provider of actionable insights, specifically geared towards institutions.
Some more for the pros.
Primarily, yes. They offer unified and modular data solutions, complete with pre-built charts, APIs, and even easy-to-use no-code analytics for those who want to dig in without extensive programming knowledge. Their data is robust, low latency, high resolution, full history, and crucially, they offer address labels and cohorts to track top entities.
So institutions can see what other big players are doing.
Essentially, yes. They're giving professional investors the granular tools to not just see what's happening, but to understand who's doing what and why, providing a significant potential edge.
The collective power of these tools sounds immense.
It is. They allow analysts to decode aggregate investor behaviors, understanding whether traders overall are in profit or loss territory, and to identify critical accumulation or distribution phases by those large holders, the whales. It moves analysis beyond mere speculation to truly data-driven insights into the complex psychology and mechanics of the digital asset market.
So for you, the learner, these platforms represent a new frontier in market intelligence. They enable potentially more informed decision-making in digital asset investments and offer a deeper understanding of market psychology. Allows you to see beyond the daily price swings.
And into the underlying mechanics and true sentiment of these complex markets. It's an exciting and potentially very useful set of tools to be aware of.
Okay. To round out our deep dive into the digital frontier, let's turn to artificial intelligence, innovation, regulation, and geopolitics. AI. It's no longer a distant future technology, is it?
Not at all. It's here.
It's a pervasive influence actively reshaping your economy, your digital interactions, the global power balance right now. It brings both immense opportunity and incredibly complex ethical and policy challenges.
And AI is undeniably a massive economic driver, sparking innovation across countless sectors. Bloomberg NAF back in August 2025 highlighted how power-hungry data centers, increasingly reliant on AI for processing, are driving a significant demand for green energy.
An interesting intersection, tech and sustainability.
Definitely. Furthermore, the rapid advancements in tech innovation are evident everywhere. Alibaba shares jumped on reports of a new AI chip noted by CNBC in August 2025. And the development of dedicated AI smartphones by companies like Gaia Labs was reported by Cointelegraph in September 2025. These aren't just incremental improvements, they feel like foundational shifts.
And it's not just about the hardware or the chips, is it? AI is fostering entirely new business models.
Absolutely. Things that were science fiction just a few years ago. For instance, its key role in autonomous robotaxi infrastructure. There was a collaboration mentioned between Avalanche and Toyota Blockchain in Cointelegraph in September 2025.
Self-driving taxis, powered by AI and blockchain.
Potentially. And perhaps even more groundbreaking is the innovative use of AI agents, autonomous software programs for transacting at scale with on-chain settlement. There's a project called Kite AI, notably backed by PayPal Ventures, reported by CoinDesk and Cointelegraph in September 2025.
What does that mean, AI agents transacting?
It means AI moving beyond just automation to truly autonomous economic activity. Imagine AI programs managing vast networks of transactions, maybe optimizing supply chains or energy grids, directly on a blockchain without human intervention for every step.
Wow, that's a leap.
It is. And this expansion naturally pushes AI to the geopolitical front lines. The competition between the U.S. and China is a prime example. Brookings, in August 2025, described AI as an interwoven frontier in this rivalry.
A new battlefield, essentially.
You could say that. There's this constant tension between technology transfer sharing innovations and national security concerns. The source even raised worries that overly aggressive bans on AI chip exports to China can backfire.
How could they backfire?
Well, they might accelerate China's own indigenous chip development efforts, making them self-sufficient faster. Or they could disrupt complex global supply chains, ultimately harming American companies that rely on those chains more than achieving the intended geopolitical goal. It's a delicate balancing act. Maintain technological advantage without stifling global innovation or provoking unintended negative consequences.
And global diplomacy around AI is equally complex. We saw China's leader, Xi Jinping, at the SCO summit, call for AI cooperation while explicitly rejecting a Cold War mentality, as reported by CNBC in August 2025.
Right. It highlights this intricate diplomatic dance countries are performing. They want the benefits of collaboration, which is really essential for a truly global technology like AI. But they're simultaneously navigating deep underlying strategic competition and vying for technological supremacy.
Talk about walking a tightrope.
Exactly.
The regulatory maze surrounding AI is another critical aspect, and we see clear contrast between approaches, don't we? West versus East.
We do. While Europe and the U.S. continue to debate broad AI principles and crypto rules, Singapore is taking a much more proactive, pragmatic stance. They're deploying live AI systems in hospitals, learning as they go, and refining crypto licensing through targeted enforcement, as Cointelegraph noted in September 2025.
What's unique about Singapore's approach?
It seems to combine innovation with cautious, hands-on regulatory experimentation. They appear to be building frameworks as the technology evolves, rather than waiting years to react with comprehensive, potentially outdated legislation.
And in the U.S.?
In the U.S., different states are approaching AI regulation in varying ways, creating this patchwork of rules across the country. Although Brookings, back in August 2025, did identify some emerging areas of bipartisan agreement on how to regulate AI,
Such as?
suggesting some common ground is forming despite political divides, particularly concerning issues like data privacy, algorithmic bias, and accountability for AI decisions. So, progress, but maybe slower and more fragmented.
What's important for you to realize listening to this is that AI isn't some distant future tech. It's actively reshaping your economy, your digital interactions, the global power balance right now.
Right now. It brings immense opportunity for innovation and efficiency, but also incredibly complex ethical and policy challenges that will demand our attention and indeed your informed participation for years to come.
So we've navigated a truly complex landscape today, haven't we? We've seen how economic policy decisions reverberate through global trade, often with surprising and uncertain outcomes. We've explored how the very bedrock of public health is being tested by resurgent diseases and systemic erosion.
Deeply concerning.
And we've taken a deep dive into how the digital realm of crypto and AI is evolving at breakneck speed, creating new financial instruments, new analytical tools, and becoming a focal point of global competition. These aren't isolated stories, are they?
Not at all. They're deeply intertwined, constantly interacting and creating the new realities we all live in.
Absolutely. From that surprising insight that legal rulings meant to clarify trade policy can actually increase market uncertainty.
Yeah, counterintuitive.
To the aha moment of realizing that relying solely on nominal GDP completely misses the true economic rise of countries like India and China decades ago when you look at PPP.
A fundamental shift in perspective.
We've uncovered the alarming fragility of public health achievements and the critical importance of local efforts in the face of federal cutbacks.
Local resilience is key.
And the fascinating yet volatile interplay of technology, finance, and politics in the digital space. What stands out across all these threads is just the constant, rapid change and the deep interconnectedness of it all.
It really is all connected.
So here's maybe a provocative thought for you to chew on as you go about your day. As we navigate a world where information flows so freely, but trust often feels fragile, and where decisions made far away have immediate impacts on our local communities, what responsibility do we each bear in sifting through the noise, demanding clarity, and understanding the real implications for our collective future?
That's a powerful question. It's not enough to just consume the information, is it?
I don't think so. We have to engage, question, seek to truly connect those dots ourselves.
And the insights don't stop here, of course. We strongly encourage you to engage with your local public health departments. Find out what's happening locally. Stay curious about global economic trends that shape your wallet. And critically examine the digital technologies reshaping your world.
Your active participation in understanding these forces and maybe contributing to informed discourse in your own circles feels more vital than ever.
Absolutely. Stay informed, stay engaged.